I want to welcome everybody and thank you for attending Hawthorn University's webinar series. I'm Paula Bartholomew. I'm the Director of Online Events, and I'm always pleased to be able to be here together and able to facilitate these powerful presentations. We will have time for Q&A at the end of this presentation today, and we'll certainly respond to your questions or comments at that time. And I encourage you to write them into the webinar question panel at any time. And I'm certain that we can expect terrific information here today as well. And I want to let you know that this presentation is being recorded and it'll be available for replay on our website in just a few days. And I have a special announcement to share. I'm pleased to say that Hawthorn University has recently been accredited by the Distance Education Accrediting Commission, that's the DEAC, and this is really an important milestone in the continuing growth and success of our university because accreditation is such a reliable indicator of the value and the quality of the education that an institution offers. So in receiving this grant of accreditation, Hawthorn's demonstrated its commitment to educational standards as well as ethical business practices that assure quality and accountability and improvement in higher education. And of course, we're just delighted to be able to share this information with you and this accomplishment. And I certainly welcome you sharing it broadly with others as well. All right, that brings me right up to today's webinar and the fact that awareness of essential oils is growing rapidly, and combining them with herbs is really a potent approach for healing. And we're so fortunate to have David Crow teach us how to use them safely and effectively. Today, David returns for part 2 of this presentation on combining herbs and essential oils, highly effective remedies for common health challenges. And he'll share extensive information, including formulas that address specific conditions for both relaxing and strengthening the nervous system. I just think this is such a huge bonus for our professional toolkits. So I'm almost giddy about this. But first, I'll tell you that part 1 of this 2 weeks ago was amazing. It provided such a wealth of information as well as an abundance of formulas of herbs and essential oil blends. And we focused specifically on digestion and detoxification, and those the formulas for a wide range of uses. You can review part 1 in Hawthorn's webinar archives from our website. And, again, I feel this is such an important topic because the use of essential oils is exploding. And combining herbs and essential oils can be so effective and safe. And David's presented for us previously 3 times, twice in January of 2017 on the 3rd and the 17th. The first one was on introduction to the safe use of essential oils. The second was the 10 most important essential oils for a home pharmacy. And then in October 2017 was on combining herbs and essential oils. And these were all terrific, and I hope you listen to them too. They're also in our archives. And if you haven't heard David Crow speak, let me give you a little bit of background on him. He's an acupuncturist and an herbalist with over 30 years of experience. He's the author of several books, including In Search of the Medicine Buddha. It's a book about his studies of Tibetan and Ayurvedic medicine in the Himalayas. A well-known lecturer in the field of natural medicine, Mr. Crow's work is largely focused on the synthesis of botanical medicine, ecology, and spirituality. He's the founder of Floracopia. It's a company that supports ecologically sustainable agriculture through the production of essential oils and aromatic tinctures. All right, that lets me say it's a pleasure to have you with us, David.
Well, thank you, Paula, for the nice introduction and the opportunity again.
I'm always eager to learn from you, and I'm thrilled because you always really help us not only gain a lot of information, but help us to understand them and then provide the means for us to actually incorporate it. So thank you so much, and I'm going to turn it over right to you when you're ready to begin.
I'm ready.
All right.
Okay, and thank you also, James, over on the admin side for moving the slides as we go through this. And welcome back to everybody, or welcome, as the case may be. And this is part 2 of our series of combining herbs and essential oils. And this is focused on a formulary type of approach. And so there's a lot of information about specific ways of preparing herbs and using essential oils combined. and there are several layers of information that we will be covering at the same time. One is reviewing the formulas themselves, but this document that you are looking at is a reference book. There's a lot of information here, and we don't actually need to go through this word for word because you can come back and look at it anytime. But it gives us an opportunity to discuss some of the principles of combining herbs and essential oils. And for those of you who were in the last version of this, part 1, you know that there are actually a lot of topics that we can discuss as we go along that have to do with why and how and when and so forth when it comes to the combining process. Essential oils are extracts of aromatic plants, and therefore they are part of botanical medicine. However, they are also unique and have different properties than the herbs themselves, even the same species that they come from. So, for example, lavender in flower form is very different than lavender in tea form. And lavender flower tea is very different than lavender essential oil. So there are many things that we could discuss just with that simple example. We're talking about a concentration gradient. And with a concentration gradient, the main factors that we have to keep in mind are the dose and the frequency and the sensitivity of the patient who is using these things. So this is one of the reasons that I am teaching this material, is to let people know that there's a concentration gradient, and that this concentration gradient is something that we have to take very seriously. And the reason why we have to take it seriously is because essential oils are being misused and abused. And this is primarily a marketing issue, because the problem with essential oils is that they are highly concentrated. And that's good on the one hand, because it gives them unique properties medicinally. But it's not good on the other hand, because it means that you need to be much more careful about the dose and the application, and you also need to have a lot more knowledge about diagnosis and treatment. So it's very easy, for example, to put some lavender flowers in your bath. That does not require any medical training. On the other hand, if we go all the way to the other end of the spectrum of concentration, you have some lavender oil. Now, it doesn't require any medical training to put some lavender oil in your diffuser. However, if you do start using essential oils, you're going to be running into a lot of issues that a lot of people don't know about that have to do with quality control. And it starts to get sort of messy. And even lavender oil in a diffuser can be problematic if the quality is not good. Nobody's going to tell you that they have poor quality oil. Everybody's going to tell you that they have the best. But the reality is that this industry is exploding so rapidly, and the demand is so high, and the production is challenged in many ways. And so I don't want to start off on a negative note, but I'll just give you a little industry statistic that over 60% of just lavender oil is adulterated. So this is why, in my opinion, it's very important to understand not only the proper applications of the essential oils, but also to understand the bigger industry and to really know your sources, and also to understand that you can't just start using essential oils just because somebody told you to. The way that we should think about essential oils is that they're actually at the top of the concentration pyramid, as it were, with foods being down at the very bottom, and then simple herbs above that, and then medicinal plants and herbs above that, and then stronger extracts like tinctures above that. And then essential oils are actually the most concentrated of the botanical substances. Now, in terms of marketing, that's great because you can make a big deal about how they're so powerful. But What that also means is that you have to have a corresponding increase in the amount of education that you receive about how to use them safely. And you also have to have a corresponding increase of knowledge about diagnosis and treatment and application. And this is not internet medicine. You cannot just tell somebody to consume essential oils internally, because there's a very high likelihood that you will contribute to the epidemic of severe poisoning cases that is happening. So that is always the starting point in my presentations, to know that essential oils are highly concentrated and they must be used carefully, and they require a much higher level of knowledge, not just about how to use each individual species, but also about how to diagnose. And so if it requires a high level of knowledge about how to diagnose and to administer something, you're talking about practicing medicine. And so we're not practicing medicine when we do aromatherapy, unless we start telling people to take drops of essential oils internally to treat specific diseases. And this is where a lot of the bigger companies have gotten into trouble legally, because people are being told that if you drink frankincense oil, it will cure cancer. Well, that's a fraudulent claim. Frankincense oil has a bad track record as far as adulteration and contamination with toxins. And you cannot tell people, take something to treat this, especially cancer. Okay. Now, that's just to get my little disclaimer out of the way, and we can now jump into the first section. We have two parts to cover: formulas for relaxing the nervous system and formulas for strengthening the nervous system. And these two sections are overlapping in many ways, because frequently we see that a tense nervous system is tense because it's exhausted. And we often see that an exhausted nervous system is exhausted because it's been chronically tense. So in a certain way, these formulas are rather holistic. And as we go through this file, you're going to see that these two major sections of relaxing and strengthening are then further broken down into specific conditions. And these conditions also overlap quite a bit. So our first topic will be stress and tension, and our second topic will be tension headaches. Next will be nervousness and irritability, and then stress-related insomnia, and then chronic adrenal overstimulation. Well, here's what you can do with all this information. A lot of these formulas overlap with each other, and at the same time, they all stand on their own. So there's a lot of formulas here for relaxing stress and tension, but relaxing stress and tension is going to have a very positive effect on tension headaches and vice versa. Formulas for treating tension headaches will also be very good for nervousness and irritability, and anything treating stress-related insomnia is also going to be good for chronically overstimulated adrenal systems. So there's a lot of crossover. And those of you who know herbology or have some experience with herbology and aromatherapy are going to recognize that there is a lot of repetition in these formulas. These are different iterations, as it were, of a lot of common themes. And so that's another thing you're going to see as we start going into specific sections here, is that you're going to see a lot of formulas that are very similar, and yet they introduced a specific herb in a new way, or a specific essential oil or group of essential oils in specific ways. Now, the way we can use this is rather interchangeably. So if you have stress and tension, is Formula 1 going to be the best, or is Formula 2 or Formula 3? That's somewhat irrelevant. What's more relevant is that you have a whole list of herbs coming together and a whole list of essential oils coming together that are going to give you a big palette, a pharmacy, home pharmacy, that you can put together pretty much however you want. So let's just take a look at a few examples of this, and I will continue unpacking these different principles as we go. That's an overview of how the system works. So Formula 1 in stress and tension, the herbs. This is the formula for the herbs. Equal parts of chamomile, and that would be the flowers, catnip, that would be the dry leaves, and lemon balm, that would be the dry leaves, okay? Make a hot water infusion using 1 teaspoon of that mixture. Steep for 10 to 15 minutes in a cup of hot water. Take a half to 1 cup 3 to 4 times during the day. Now, for those of you who were in part 1, you're already familiar with this type of format, which is there's a recipe. And the recipe is very simple. And you're going to see here that there's really no herbs or essential oils or methods of application here that require high levels of training. This is a home pharmacy, a home formulary, as it were, for folk medicine. And that's different than a very high clinical level. But what's interesting is that even though these formulas are really designed for home use with not a lot of medical knowledge or any medical knowledge at all, really. I mean, anybody can take these formulas and prepare them and use them safely. But these are also the things that are going to be used by highly trained clinicians. They're just going to add a few things that have more safety concerns in more specific dosages for more specific lengths of time for more specific individuals. So you have this tea here, and you're going to prepare that. Now, you can just take that as you want, a half cup, 1 cup, 3 to 4 times a day. This is a combination of very simple herbs that are all nervine relaxants, chamomile, catnip, and lemon balm. This is safe for kids, okay? It's great for adults. It's miraculous how well it works. We don't have to take something exotic, and we don't have to start moving into narcotics or semi-narcotics like medical cannabis products. We can start with something simple, and they can do wonders for our stress and tension, especially if we start drinking these on a regular basis. Now, if we want to make it stronger, then we can add passion flower. And passion flower is best to use in a tincture form because it's easier to work with and it's standardized and so forth. You can add a half a drop of that passion flower tincture 2 to 3 times a day with the tea. So this is another style and format that you're going to find throughout this formulary, and that is that there's the tea and then there's some stronger additions, and therefore there's quite a bit of flexibility in how you actually make the base remedy. Now, we add the oils. Before we go into those details, I just want to mention that herbs for stress and tension are highly effective. One of the things we find as we go through different body systems is that herbs are highly effective for certain things, and they're not as effective for other things, depending on the organ system and depending on the condition. Well, the same is true for essential oils. However, with essential oils, it's even more limited. And this is the basic problem that I mentioned, which is a lot of adverse reactions. And it's not that the essential oils themselves are dangerous, and it's not that they are ineffective. It's that they are being prescribed for the wrong conditions in the wrong ways. So I mentioned a widespread case last time, people putting undiluted oregano oil all over their children to boost their immune system. Well, that's the wrong use of the wrong oil for the wrong person, okay? Do you use oregano oil? Yes, but its use is extremely limited because of its concentration and toxicity and its caustic nature. This is also one of the principles that we're going to see here is that we don't have to use essential oils frequently because we have the herbs that they came from. And the herbs they came from are much safer and they're biocompatible. So people always think stronger is better, more is better. But when it comes to herbal medicine, that is not the case. So we think in terms of biocompatibility. Biocompatibility is better than something that is not biocompatible. So here we have the herbs, and herbs are highly effective for both relaxing the nervous system, all these different categories, and for strengthening the nervous system in different ways. So our first group, nervine relaxants, highly effective. And then passion flower tincture. It's not only a nervine relaxant, but it is much more of a stronger sedative, also highly effective. So now the essential oils. How effective are essential oils actually for stress and tension? Well, they are highly effective. They're highly effective in a diffuser. All the methods I'm going to give you here, highly effective diluted in a bath, diluted in a massage oil for a massage carrier oil. They are very effective. But here's the main point. Herbs are working through a different physiological mechanism than the essential oils. When we drink the tea, we are actually consuming the essential oils because these are aromatic plants. We are consuming essential oils of chamomile, catnip, and lemon balm internally in biocompatible form because we are drinking water extracts of those plants. Passion flower tincture is not based on essential oils. But then when we start using aromatherapy, we are ingesting the flower essential oils that we could also make tea out of, but we are administering them in a different method, a different route. So let's look now at the formula. Equal parts lavender, geranium, and orange. And parts means whatever size you want. That could be 1 drop each. It can be 1 ounce each into a blend, and then you put a few drops in a diffuser, however you want. It just means equal proportions. And then you put that in a diffuser, and we did discuss different kinds of diffusers last presentation, and you can refer back to that. Or you can put 5 drops total of the blend. That's not 5 drops of each, but 5 drops total of the blend into a bath. And you can stir it around, or you can actually put it in an emulsifier like milk, or you can put it in a carrier oil. Just make sure and disperse it, okay? Now, that's going to be administered through the skin and through the respiratory system. Therefore, what we see is that we are using herbs that have a similar nervine relaxant calmative effect, but we are administering them through different routes, and that's what increases the effectiveness and the potency and the benefits and the therapeutic effects. So that's one of the most important principles of why should we combine herbs and oils. It's because we can administer different kinds of medicines that are maybe sometimes similar or maybe sometimes they are different, but we can administer them in a complementary way so that the body is receiving more of them, not just one type. So in other words, drinking chamomile tea and having a few drops of chamomile essential oil in the diffuser is more effective than just having one or the other. All right, so now that you have those basic principles, we can skip through quickly, read through a few of these formulas. So formula 2, you'll see that what happens here is that I am adding herbs sequentially. So equal parts dry herb of lemon balm, chamomile, skullcap, and motherwort. Skullcap and motherwort are again in the nervine relaxant category, but they are much more antispasmodic. Skullcap is specifically for muscular spasms. Motherwort is also very relaxant, and it is also specifically for the cardiac system, for circulation. Leonurus cardiaca, as it's called. And so it has a vasodilating, relaxant type of effect. But these two together are excellent for nervous stress and tension. And again, we make a strong infusion, 1 cup boiling water, over 2 to 3 teaspoons of the herbs. Steep for 10 to 15 minutes, take a half a cup 3 to 4 times a day. The dose is a little smaller because the tea is a little stronger and more bitter. Now, very important tincture here that you can add, 1 dropper of milky oat seed. Milky oat seed is by far the most important restorative, nutritive tonic for an exhausted nervous system. Why are we using it for relaxing the nervous system? Because the nervous system is probably tense because of exhaustion. And if it isn't fully developed, it will be soon. So milky oat seed is the best for supporting the adrenal glands, nourishing the adrenal system, nourishing an exhausted nervous system. Now, the oils that we can choose here, Clary Sage, Bergamot, and Lavender in a diffuser. So these are all flowers. And lavender, the previous formula of lavender and geranium and orange, it was also very floral. Orange is citrus, but the lavender and geranium are both floral. Clary Sage has actually been found through clinical and empirical research to be more relaxing than lavender. It is the #1 oil for reducing hot flashes. And so if you use Clary Sage in a diffuser, sometimes that by itself is enough to reduce hot flashes. If you use a few drops in a bath, sometimes that will do it, which is a step above using it in the diffuser. And then using it in a massage or body oil is a step above the bath. And so therefore, you can test this yourself if you need it. One of the things about essential oils is a lot of claims are made about their specific effects, but the olfactory system is sort of broad spectrum. So there's very few essential oils that we can actually say this oil does this all the time for everybody in a repeatable sort of manner. But Clary Sage is one of those. And Clary Sage is the oil that will almost always have a dramatic effect on reducing hot flashes, menopausal heat in general. So it's in a small group of oils, maybe 10 oils altogether, that actually repeatedly do something all the time. The rest of them, there's quite a bit of subjective interpretation through the limbic system. Okay, so let's skip down here a little bit. I'll just sum up some of this stuff so we can keep moving quickly here. In Formula 3, you're going to see a similar kind of effect, but we're going to add valerian. And then we're going to use a combination of essential oils, one of my favorites, equal parts of Palo Santo and lavender. Formula 4, we're going to use neroli, the orange blossom oil, and we're going to just put it on our fingertips and inhale it deeply. And that's a nice way of using an expensive oil as a kind of aromatic treasure. Now, you'll also see in the herb formula here, hops. Hops is pretty strong. So what we're doing here as we go is we are building, excuse me, we're building these formulas so that they actually become a bit stronger. So let's go down a few more here. And I just want to mention also that I'm also bringing in a few things that are somewhat exotic. So in Formula 5, jasmine and rose. So these are single note perfumes, and you'll see that there's a pattern here. Flowers. Flower essential oils are always relaxing and calming to the nervous system. They're euphoric, and they're also very safe. There's very few concerns. We don't have to worry about burning the skin with oregano and things like that. So Formula 6, you'll notice that St. John's wort is there. And so now, James, if you could scroll down to page 2, that would be appreciated. And we can just see as we go down that there's more flowers. And now we come to Formula 7, Kava. And there's a specific way of preparing that and a specific way of using it. Now, Kava is very strong, but if you use it the way that I have prescribed, it's going to be mild. And Kava is the #1 anxiolytic herb. It is the best for calming anxiety. I strongly recommend that you learn how to use Kava if you have anxiety. It's not for everybody, and you have to use it in the right dose, but I'm presenting it here for your consideration. So the rest are different iterations of this. Now let's touch on a few things that are unique for tension headaches. Again, we're going to see a lot of the same things because in the treatment of tension headaches, we want to relax the nervous system primarily. So again, we're going to see passion flower, peppermint, chamomile. But here we also see feverfew. Feverfew is specific for tension headaches. And we're also going to see the addition of willow bark tincture. So these are specific medicines now for tension headaches. And you're also going to see that there's a specific method of using the essential oils. We're changing the group now. We were using mostly flowers. Now we're using eucalyptus and conifers, and that's because they open the respiratory passageways and clear the head. And so these are going to be diffused or diluted in a carrier, and here is a specific application. Apply it to the temples, or massage in a carrier oil into the neck and shoulders. So again, we see that there is a need for using specific species of essential oils in specific ways in specific areas of the body as well. So for tension headaches, eucalyptus oil in a carrier oil, and you can massage it into the neck and shoulders. Okay. Formula 2, again, we're going to see feverfew, skullcap, passionflower, same basic approach herb-wise, but you'll see that you can cook it in fresh ginger root also. And ginger root has a warming effect. Now, the specific tincture we are adding, California poppy. The poppy is a member of the poppy family. It's not the same species, it's not even the same genus, but it's closely related, has similar kinds of compounds, and it has a similar relaxant effect. No opioid compounds in it, not addictive, okay? But it has significant antispasmodic powers. So here's another use of the essential oils to combine with this stronger herbal treatment, and that is lavender oil undiluted on the temples. Now, anytime anybody tells you to put an essential oil undiluted, you must be very cautious, because even with the safest of oils like lavender, if you don't know where that oil came from, or maybe it's been sitting on your shelf for 5 years, it may have oxidized, or your skin may be very sensitive. There's numerous factors that can go into whether it's actually safe to apply. So I would approach any direct application very cautiously, but at the same time, 1 or 2 drops of lavender oil undiluted on the temples is a specific remedy for tension headaches. Formula 3, I'm going to introduce my favorite, and actually the favorite of many herbalists for tension headaches and headaches in general, and pain in the head and neck and shoulders, all types of pain in the upper body, wood betony. So again, you're going to see skullcap, antispasmodic, peppermint and chamomile, relaxants, and then wood betony tincture. We can also bring in the flowers, and we can also massage them on the neck and shoulders, and we can also use them in a diffuser. Okay, so now we can scroll to the next page, and here I'm going to introduce another herb that is very nice for tension and stress and for headaches, linden flowers. We find linden flowers in a lot of formulas for hypertension. We see it also in things like hyperthyroid, anything that's tense and hot, linden flower can be very beneficial for. And here's a new method of using some essential oils. Put a drop, 1 drop of lavender, 1 drop of clary sage on the palms, rub them together. Just hold them to your face and inhale it. It's very simple, because you can take your essential oil with you in your pocket, in your purse, in your car, whatever, and just inhale it throughout the day several times. Don't touch your hands. Don't get the oils all over your face. Don't burn your nostrils doing it too much. But this is a very beautiful combination, probably the most common combination of 2 essential oils for general relaxation purposes, lavender and clary sage. Okay, now we find that in Formula 5, Valerian is also very good for tension headaches. And we see another recipe for applying oils diluted, in this case, to the temples, because there's peppermint there. We do not want to put peppermint undiluted on the skin ever, no matter what people tell you, because it can be very irritant. Formula 6, California poppy and valerian. It's getting stronger again as we go. And some more flowers. Now, nervousness and irritability. I'm going to just speed this up a little bit. A lot of these formulas are repetitions in different iterations of things that we've learned before. And there's different dimensions to every herb. So, for example, we may want to bring in Tulsi in Formula 1. And Tulsi is actually more of a warming aromatic stimulant, but it's an adaptogen, and it is also strengthening to the nervous system. So whenever we have nervousness and irritability, we also have that underlying exhaustion. And here we also have another principle in the oil section, equal parts rose, geranium, and vetiver. Wear this blend as a perfume for anointing or diluting carrier oil for massage. And I will mention that one of the principles throughout this entire section of relaxing the nervous system is all of these things are pleasurable. And as a matter of fact, doing something pleasurable for yourself is how to relax nervous tension. So using the essential oils in the bath, getting an aromatic massage, sitting down and drinking a nice relaxing cup of tea with having the essential oils in the diffuser, or anointing yourself with an exotic essential oil, like a combination of rose and vetiver. These are pleasurable therapeutic activities. So give yourself the time, and that will be beneficial for relaxing your nervousness and irritability. So just moving through here, you're going to see that I'm getting more exotic with the blends of the essential oils. Vetiver, sandalwood, and jasmine. Inhale from your fingertips. Some of the sacred scents come in Formula 3, frankincense and Palo Santo. Now in Formula 4, we have a new herb, Corydalis, and this comes from Chinese medicine. This is the strongest herb for pain in Chinese medicine. And so you could also use that for the tension headaches. And it is also a very strong nervine sedative. So again, the last blend there is going to be flowers and frankincense. Okay, so now we can scroll to the next page. Here's a completely different concept at the end here. Tincture of reishi mushroom and milky oat seed and ashwagandha. Now these are tonics and these are adaptogens. Tonics and adaptogens will actually calm the nervous system. They will have a sedative effect. And so this is something we're going to see here as we get to the end of this section, that many times we actually use things that are nourishing and calming and building for the system to help relax it. So another nice exotic blend, sandalwood and neroli, and that concludes that section. Now, stress-related insomnia. Again, I'm just going to speed this up a little bit to get us back on track, schedule-wise, to make up for our little introduction. A lot of the same herbs, but again, sort of in descending order that they're going to get stronger as we go here. And I just want to mention that treating stress-related insomnia is not about maintaining your stressful lifestyle and then knocking yourself out with something at the end of the day. Treating stress-related insomnia means that you treat it all day long. And so we take these herbs throughout the day. So you can see first formula, take 1/2 to 1 cup in the late afternoon and again in the evening. Or even better, take these on an hourly basis. Sip on your tea on an hourly basis. And here's a concept for you. If you really want to treat your stress-related insomnia, why don't you start with nervine relaxant herbs in the morning, like lemon balm and chamomile and things like that, instead of a double espresso? Okay, well, that's a radical concept. That will change your entire nervous system, your entire biorhythm. All right? But if you really want good sleep, you'll get to a point where you might consider something as radical as chamomile tea in the morning. All right, so Formula 2, skullcap, lemon balm, and here's another one. You can also, before bed, you can take a little bit of nutmeg, about a 1/4 teaspoon, in warm milk. That's an Ayurvedic concept. Now we can use the flower oils again, and you can give yourself a therapeutic aromatic bath in the evening. That's very aromatic. I mean, very relaxing. Now, there's a couple new things that are coming here. Formula 3, Jamaican dogwood. Jamaican dogwood should be used carefully. Just follow the dosage that's on here. Don't take it for an extended period of time. It has a special application. It is for treating insomnia, especially in the elderly and especially when related to pain. Okay? So we'll just go through, and again, a few new things. In Formula 4, the essential oil that's new here is Cistus rock rose, and it's a very, very sacred fragrance, very relaxing. So then let's take a look here. Jadamanzi, Spikenard oil in Formula 5. I'm mentioning this even though it is temporarily unavailable. It is an endangered species that has to be traded on the international market with special papers. The primary place it comes from is Nepal. The Nepalese government is currently not giving those papers for political reasons. It's not that it's being over-harvested. It's sustainably managed, and thousands of people are out of work, and a lot of people are not getting this oil. But it appears that it will be coming again in the future. So you can keep this in mind. Jadamanzi oil, which is a relative of valerian, 1 or 2 drops in 1 teaspoon of warm sesame oil massaged into the bottom of the feet before bed. And I can attest that this is the most reliable method for chronic insomnia, especially related to nervous tension. So Jadamanzi oil is actually in that category of the few essential oils that always do something. And in this case, it always gives good sleep. Now, if you overdo it, it'll give you wild psychedelic dreams. So stick to this dosage. So now scrolling through, we come to our last section here, chronic adrenal overstimulation. This is at the root of a lot of these tension syndromes and conditions. And here we're going to switch over now to the nourishing aspect. And so again, we see that formula of reishi, milky oat seed, and ashwagandha. Okay, and we're also going to start to use the essential oils and fragrances more for meditation. Okay, because we want to make medicine part of our relaxing lifestyle. So sandalwood and rose, where it is a perfume, or agarwood as an incense for meditation. Heating a piece of agarwood chip on an incense heater is a very unique way of administering aromatic medicine. It is highly, highly relaxant. All right, so let's look now at Formula 2. It looks like there was a little typo that happened here, but no concern. Just let's continue on to Formula 2. Tinctures of licorice, milky oat seed, and American ginseng in a cup of hot water 2 to 3 times a day. Now here I will mention licorice has significant contraindications and warnings. Follow the dosages carefully here, and especially the warning, discontinue licorice after 1 week or switch to deglycerized licorice tablets. I mentioned that last time as well. It is not safe to take licorice on an ongoing basis. It is okay to take licorice in very small doses for a few days, and especially in a formula like this with milky oat seed and American ginseng. Do not take licorice if you have hypertension or kidney disease or water retention. Those are the basic warnings. Formula 3, very similar, but I'm introducing the tincture of schizandra here. Schizandra is a wonderful adaptogen. Formula 4, ginger tea, again, milky oat. You're going to see milky oat over and over again for the exhausted nervous system. And now we move into the adaptogens, rhodiola also. And finally, here is a unique preparation for the chronic overstimulation of the adrenal glands. And this is a folk medicine application of the conifer oils, which should be diluted and then applied to the lumbar area of the back. And so this is a very interesting, unique way of applying these. Now, we move to the second section, and I'm going to condense this a little bit. And these are formulas for strengthening the nervous system. But we can ask a simple question. What about all those formulas we just did for stress and tension? They will strengthen the nervous system also. Why? Because chronic stress and tension is what's making the nervous system exhausted, as I have said. And so therefore, the more we relax the nervous system, the more we are actually strengthening it. Now, the main categories that we're going to talk about functionally is supporting cognitive functions, enhancing concentration, long-term protection against neurodegenerative conditions. So this is not just symptomatic treatment. Antidepressant and mood uplifting benefits, and that's going to cover everything. So now, we can ask the question, how effective are herbs and essential oils and aromatherapy for this? Well, it depends on how severe it is. Now, when it comes to stress and tension headaches and insomnia from stress and chronic adrenal overstimulation and the various irritability, the various things we just talked about, I can say without a doubt that herbal medicine and essential oils, the different applications of essential oils especially, massage, aromatic bath, all these things, these are definitely the first line of treatment, okay? You can treat so many things related to stress and tension so effectively without any toxic side effects, without needing prescription medications or even over-the-counter things. Herbal medicine and essential oils, highly effective. Now, when it comes to supporting cognitive functions, enhancing concentration and memory, the same can be said that herbal medicine is highly effective, but we also have to keep in mind that there's a real range of medical conditions that can be much more serious here. So that really depends on the age of the patient and whether they have advanced dementia or not, whether they're on all kinds of medications or so forth. So we can't say that herbal medicine and essential oil will always be effective. We can say that herbs and essential oils will always be effective to moderate to a high degree when it comes to stress and tension conditions. But we don't know when it comes to cognitive functions. It's definitely the first line of treatment. It's definitely superior to a lot of things that are out there. But the results depend on the individual. Now, long-term protection against neurodegenerative conditions. How effective is this? Well, we don't know because it's long-term protection. This is actually a program for preventing neurodegenerative conditions. And so we're not going to know how effective it is until all of our friends have basically aged faster than we have. And then we can look back and we can say, well, my cognitive functions actually stayed really intact and sharp all through my 60s and 70s and 80s. Then we can see the benefit, okay? So this is a preventive program, and it's harder to judge preventive programs except in retrospect. Now, for antidepressant and mood uplifting effects, I can say that herbs and essential oils are definitely beneficial for simple to moderate, okay, conditions. For more advanced, chronic depressive conditions, adjunct therapy. And a lot of times what happens with more advanced depressive conditions is that people have difficulty staying focused on a long-term program. So these are things that can be very helpful, and these are things that are actually very good for mild to moderate forms. So let's look at a few of these formulas here. Supporting cognitive functions, okay. In the first formula, peppermint. Well, that's going to be enlivening. Peppermint is good just for the brain in general. But sage, and this is the common sage, Salvia officinalis. Sage is very good as a central nervous system tonic. Now, don't take sage for an extended period of time because it can start to dry you out a bit. okay? But you can drink it intermittently. Now, as far as the essential oils go directly to the brain. And this is one of the ways that they work for both relaxing and for stimulating the nervous system. The flowers and the sacred scents that we learned about for relaxing the nervous system work because of the olfactory link to the limbic system, and through that to the endocrine system, and through that to the adrenal glands and the nervous system. So aromatherapy works through the olfactory and brain link for both relaxing and for stimulating. And that's why aromatherapy is actually really good for treating and preventing cognitive functions because it goes directly to the brain. So what's a nice uplifting, stimulating kind of combination? Lemon and black pepper, a little stimulant here. You can put it in the diffuser, or you can inhale it from a perfume strip or the bottle periodically. Okay, here's another formula supporting cognitive functions. Tulsi, brain tonic, adaptogen. As they say in Ayurvedic medicine, it strengthens the prana of the nervous system in the brain. Rosemary, excellent herb for memory and concentration. You can use equal parts and use 1 teaspoon of that blend and just make a tea, standard preparation. Now you can add, here we start to develop the formula a little bit. You can add the tincture of gotu kola. Gotu kola is virtually non-toxic, but for some people it can have a little bit of a stimulant effect. So you may want to take it in the earlier part of the day if you notice that happening. But gotu kola is a neuroprotective herb. And it's interesting, according to the doctrine of signatures, it's good for the brain because the leaves actually look like brains. And it has been used in Ayurveda forever and for this purpose. And one of its names, gotu kola in Sanskrit, is Brahmi. And Brahmi refers to Brahma, consciousness. So gotu kola is one of the easiest herbs to use for supporting the brain's neuroprotective functions. It has a wide range of healing benefits. It's good for the joints, it's healing for the skin, it's good for rejuvenation in general, anti-inflammatory, so many wonderful things, and virtually non-toxic. Formula 3, again, we're going to see gotu kola, but here you can make it in a tea from the dry form, and the rosemary is there again, and here's yerba mate, and why do we bring that in? Because it is a biocompatible, safe way of using an herb that contains caffeine. So when it comes to strengthening the nervous system, I do advocate using common forms of caffeine-containing plants as long as they are high quality. There's nothing worse than low-quality yerba mate or low-quality black tea. It's really hard on the digestive system. It's an irritant. It overstimulates the nervous system. But really high-quality, organic, traditionally prepared yerba mate and really high-quality green tea or oolong tea, very nice, because both of these herbs contain complex mixtures of compounds that are not just giving us a little bit of caffeine, which is not really terrible unless we really overconsume it in highly concentrated forms, but it's also giving us nutrients and sedative compounds at the same time. So here we have a nice oil combination that is stimulant to the mind, clearing to the consciousness, and that is eucalyptus and laurel. Laurel essential oil is spicy, a little bit of herbaceous kind of cinnamon spice kind of note. And this is very nice for clearing the sinuses and stimulating our alertness. Formula 4, ginger tea, which is always nice for waking up our brain. And here we have Tulsi again. And here we have gotu kola again, but now we are adding a stronger nervine tonic, Bacopa. And Bacopa is becoming quite famous because it is going into a lot of formulas that are now showing up in your spam folder of treat your memory loss, overnight miraculous cure for Alzheimer's. All these kind of things are based on Bacopa. However, I would say that the majority of those products are very questionable. So use a high quality tincture. And I'll mention also that Bacopa is much stronger, so start with smaller doses. And it's interesting because both Gotu Kola and Bacopa are both called Brahmi in Sanskrit. So oils, lemon balm, and frankincense and Palo Santo. And you would say, well, why lemon balm? Lemon balm is a calmative relaxant. Yes, but lemon balm essential oil now has some research support showing that it actually is very beneficial for calming the agitation of Alzheimer's dementia. And they believe that the mechanism is that it helps to activate and rejuvenate the acetylcholine receptor sites. So again, the link between olfaction and the central nervous system and cognitive function. So lemon balm as an herb has a very old reputation going back centuries as being very good for students, for supporting memory. And now we see in modern research that the essential oil inhaled is also very supportive of cognitive function. And so finally, Tulsi Tea in Formula 5, very simple. Now what's important here is 10 drops tincture of ginkgo. Now I'm giving you this, but I'm going to give you a warning. Ginkgo is an excellent circulatory stimulant. It is widely consumed and widely used, but like Kava, you must do some further research on it, and you must take it very carefully, because ginkgo can enhance bleeding properties and propensities. And so if you are on a blood thinning medication, you must not take ginkgo. All right, that's the main warning. However, if you are in otherwise good health, you do not have a propensity towards any bleeding disorders, you are not on any blood thinning medications, ginkgo will be fine. It enhances cerebral circulation, especially. Let's look at the next section here, and this is on long-term protection against neurodegenerative conditions. So Formula 1, long-term protection. Now what's different here is that we're taking the herbs and we're taking the oils, but we're taking them in different dosages and we're taking them in different frequencies, because neurodegenerative conditions are things that we have to think about treating over a long period of time. And protecting ourselves is not about treating something. It's about bringing something in that's going to nourish our body on an ongoing basis. So you'll see here that we have lemon balm and Tulsi in the usual tea, but here we're going to add 1 dropper of the tincture of either the reishi mushroom, which is neuroprotective, or tincture of lion's mane mushroom, which is also a specific neuroprotector and neuroregenerative fungus. Now we're going to take 1 dose of the tea, or take 1 capsule, okay? Now here, we're going to take it 2 to 3 times a day, and this is fine, but what we're going to start to see in the other formulas is that we're going to cut this back to 2 to 3 times a week. So what I would say is start with this, and then you can add an extra note here, and that is, if you're going to do this long term, okay, 1 time a day and 1 dropper tincture. Well, 1 time a day is already reduced dosage, okay? So 1 time a day for the tincture, half a cup 2 to 3 times a day. This is fine. But if this is something that you feel is beneficial or could be beneficial for you, just take this dosage 1 or 2 times a week. That's all. Now here's a new concept for you, and this is Nasya. Nasya is medicated oil in the nostril, and you can find Brahmi Ghee, and you know that Brahmi means either Gotu Kola or Bacopa or both, have been cooked into ghee. And you can get this through Ayurvedic sources such as Banyan Botanicals, and you just take a little bit on the tip of the little finger and you just massage it into the nostril. And that gives lipid-soluble herbal compounds that will cross the blood-brain barrier because they are lipid-soluble. And so this is a very important form of administering herbs in Ayurvedic medicine, lipid form, which are soluble across the blood-brain barrier. So that's something that you can look into. Now we have lemon balm and hibiscus flowers and 1 drop of tincture of hawthorn. And why? Hawthorn is the #1 cardiac strengthening fruit. And at the same time, it's also very good as long-term neuroprotective functions for supporting cerebral circulation, because anything that strengthens the heart muscle and helps to decongest the arterial system is also going to support cerebral circulation. And supporting cerebral circulation is one of the primary objectives of long-term neuroprotective benefits. Turmeric will do that also. Okay. Now you'll see the dose here, 2 to 3 times a week, not 2 to 3 times a day, 2 to 3 times a week. Again, eucalyptus and lavender. These are very nice for just general relaxation and awakening alertness. Formula 3, here we have a very nice simple combination of 2 nourishing adaptogens, schizandra and goji berries. Okay. And again, the nasya, this time with calamus. Do not take calamus internally unless you have a lot of knowledge about it. Some species of calamus are toxic, some are semi-toxic, some are safe. The dose is very important, but it is very safe and acceptable to take calamus that has been prepared into a nasya oil, which is available through Ayurvedic channels. And you can put 1 or 2 drops of this nasya oil in each nostril 1 or 2 times a week. And it's very nourishing and energizing for the brain. All right, so this goes on now. We should start winding it down. And we see Formula 4, peppermint and gotu kola. And we see again bacopa. Turmeric comes back because now turmeric is getting so much attention as an anti-inflammatory for the brain. And brain inflammation, whether it's coming from blood sugar issues or poor circulation or heavy metal buildup or whatever it is, definitely a major contributing factor to decline of our cognitive function. All right, Formula 5, capsule of rhodiola, lemon balm tincture. Rhodiola, major adaptogen. It's also very good for supporting cognitive function. Now we can scroll to the next to last page, and we have here Formula 6. I'm not going to read this entire thing. I just want to bring it to your attention that this is a complete program where every day you're going to rotate through the herbs. And this is a very nice way of using a pharmacy. And so on day 1, you'll take turmeric. On day 2, you'll take reishi. Day 3, you'll take bacopa. This way you don't run into the problems of taking one herb for too long. This way you just take a small dose and you rotate through it, and you'll see that there are 7 cognitive supporting herbs. And every day you're also going to use a different type of essential oil that works in different ways. The floral oils, relaxing. Spice oils, stimulating. The sacred scents, like Palo Santo, euphoric. Okay, so it's going to give the brain a wide variety of different aromas. And variety of aromas is one of the ways that the brain stays activated. Now, let's conclude by looking at the antidepressant and mood uplifting benefits of herbs. And again, I will just mention, this is very individual. It's not so predictable. It depends on the severity. It depends how long the situation's been happening. It depends on what the condition actually is, because there's a very big difference between the depression of manic depressant states and seasonal affective disorder, many kinds of depressant states. Okay, but in general, depressant states are treated by strengthening the nervous system. Okay, whereas In our previous section, all of the different things that we are using for relaxing the nervous system are anti-anxiety. They are anxiolytic. So practically everything we touched on is going to have a benefit for anxiety in the first section. And almost everything we're talking about here in the second section of energizing and strengthening is also going to be beneficial for depressant conditions. So this is sort of the yin and yang of all of this. So here we're going to see some of the usual things you're familiar with. St. John's wort, tincture. But linden is also uplifting. And here we also can start applying the essential oils in diluted form for scalp massage because it will stimulate circulation in the brain. And we can also wear the uplifting euphoric perfumes such as neroli, orange blossom oil. In Formula 2, St. John's wort again, but we're also going to add bacopa because depressant states are very much part of neurodegeneration. And so there is a link there to use things like bacopa and gotu-kola to strengthen the nervous system to protect the nerves, and that will help overcome depression as well. The oils, stimulating spices, myrtle and laurel and Tulsi. Put it in a diffuser. This will burn your skin if you put this blend directly on. Or you can wear the perfume of jasmine, just a single note. A single drop of a single note of jasmine is uplifting. Formula 3, rose petal tea. And then you can add the Hawthorn tincture. This is more for a specific type of depression. And as you might imagine, rose addresses grief and sadness and loss and heartbreak. So rose petal tea and the Hawthorn tincture also nourishes the heart physically, which helps to overcome that kind of grief and sadness. And then rose essential oil with or without neroli, orange blossom, as a perfume will also be very helpful. Formula 4, we're going back to some of the nerve strengthening herbs and nerve relaxing herbs, skullcap and Tulsi, and then bacopa. But here we're going to add damiana, which is more of a warming, aromatic, enlivening type of herb. And again, we can go back to Brahmi Ghee because it's going to nourish the brain through the blood-brain barrier. And we can also wear the perfume of patchouli if we like it. And here I want to make a qualifying statement. Don't use any oils for aromatherapy that you don't like. Sometimes we have to take herbs we don't like, but we should never be using essential oils that we don't like because the pleasure response is so much a part of their benefits. The only exception to that is jaramanzi because it smells bad, but it always works for insomnia. All right, so we can scroll to the last page and we'll see that there's two final formulas. Formula 5 here is we're going back to the nutritive concept, and we are taking a little bit of milk or nut milk if we are lactose intolerant or vegan, and we can add a quarter teaspoon of ashwagandha powder and maca powder. And this is going to give nourishment to the brain. And we can also add mucuna. Now, mucuna is very interesting because it's a primary herb for Parkinsonian's conditions, Parkinson's disease, okay? And it is a natural source of L-dopa. It's called the dopamine bean, but it's a general brain tonic for everybody, and it's quite safe to use in that way at this dose. So this is a nourishing relaxant, but it's a relaxant that also has antidepressant effects, okay? Essential oils, simple combination again. Tulsi eucalyptus, more stimulating and energizing. And again, the idea of where something really exotic and beautiful to just feel good from, sandalwood and agarwood. Finally, our last formula. 5 drops of the tincture of ashwagandha, licorice, milky oat, American ginseng, and eleuthero, which is the Siberian ginseng. And you can put that in either hot water or your favorite aromatic tea 2 times a day between meals. Now, this is a classic combination of adaptogens and nutritive tonics. The milky oat, pure nutritive tonic, restorative to the nervous system and adrenal system. American ginseng is very nice for strengthening the nervous system. Do not use Chinese ginseng or Korean ginseng in general without more education. It can increase blood pressure and so forth. And again, replace the licorice if you have any hypertension or kidney problems or water retention issue, and switch over to the deglycerized licorice tablets. So that brings us to the end of our presentation, and there's a lot of material here for your reference, and I hope you learned a lot. And so Paula, I will turn it back to you, and let's see if people have any questions or comments.
Let's just see if we do. I think so. This is the time to get your questions in if you haven't asked already. I wanted to come back to a few things, David, about using essential oils in the bath. You're saying that essential oils in the bath in a diluted way. Well, the bath is a diluting source, right? So putting, like, how many drops would you put in a good size bath?
Well, the problem is that oil and water don't mix. Okay, so what happens is that people think that if you put essential oils in the bath that they're safe, but they're basically just going to get right on your skin. So that means that you are actually putting undiluted essential oils on your skin, and that can burn very badly, especially if you are taking uneducated advice in using stronger oils. And some people put oregano essential oil all over the bath. You know, even 5 drops of oregano oil on a bath can burn your mucous membranes, get in, burn your skin. So, first of all, the rules of using essential oil in a bath: don't use more than 5 drops, and do not use spice oils, and do not use anything that is potentially caustic. And the best way to avoid all these problems is use only flower oils, such as lavender or clary sage, and the respiratory oils, such as eucalyptus and the conifers. And if you stick to those 2 groups of oils, you're going to be safe. And if you keep the dose at 5 drops or less, you're going to be safe. And then if you are even, to make yourself even safer, what you can do is that you can add these to a dispersing agent. And that's the goal when using essential oils in the bath, is you just want to make sure that the molecules aren't floating on the top of the water where they're going to come directly into contact with your skin as soon as you get in. You want to spread them around. One way is to mix them into a cup of salt first. So get a cup of Epsom salt or your favorite Dead Sea salt or whatever, and then sprinkle 5 drops of lavender oil on that, stir it in, and then pour that in and swish it around. And the salt will basically act as a dispersant carrier that's going to take the lavender throughout the entire bath. So that's the principle with using essential oils safely in the bath.
Beautiful, thank you. And just intuitively, it's something that I have done with Epsom salt, is to add that. And 5 drops is, I think, usually I'll put 2 or 3 drops, and it's strong. Just breathing it is, it's nice. Anyway, it fills the whole house and feels good. But I'm glad for the caution there and the safety of that. So thank you. When you talked in your opening comments about, just the demand is so high for essential oils, particularly some of them, and talk about different places that are doing it sustainably. Certainly you are. How can we keep up with how can this demand keep up with our supply sustainably?
Well, that's a complicated issue. And basically what it comes down to is that as awareness of the value of herbal medicines increases, it's going to economically drive the opportunities for more agricultural projects. So we can see the same things at work in the demand for organic food, for example. Okay. So a couple decades ago, it was only toxic agribusiness. That was, it had been completely taken over, and there were people doing small scale things, but organic was not on the radar. Now, organic is driving, the demand for organic food at the consumer level is driving the development of organic agriculture.
Sure.
It's not only driving the development of the agriculture, it's also changing a lot of things in agribusiness as well. I mean, even agribusiness is getting into all of this. Okay, so many innovations are coming to be able to reduce the input of pesticides and so forth. So even if it's not shifting totally over to pure organic, the movement is underway even at the industrial level. So that's driven by consumer demand. Now, the same thing is happening with herbal medicine. Consumer demand is driving the protection of the natural resources, and we see examples of this such as agroforestry, where high-value trees such as sandalwood are being planted in very, very large scale in India, Australia, and so forth. Huge, huge plantations of sandalwood have been coming up now over the last several decades. And so sandalwood is an endangered species. Some species of sandalwood are endangered in some parts of the world.
Yeah.
But sandalwood has also been replanted at such a large scale that it's now moving out of endangered status. And the sandalwood trees are also the basis of sustainable agroforestry for other crops, because while you're waiting 20 or 30 or 40 or 50 years for the sandalwood trees to mature, they are planting all kinds of other medicinal plants, food crops, aromatics, all kinds of things in those forests as well. So that's being driven by a combination of consumer demand and increased awareness of long-term ecological sustainability. So that's the positive side. On the negative side, climate change, deforestation, overharvesting, many, many factors at work. So it's, that's the story of life right now, is we have both these opposing forces at work. A lot of people doing really good things, a lot of people doing a lot of bad things. But in the field of health in general, what I can say is that globally there is an explosion of health consciousness that's happening, that's driving the interest in healthier food, that's driving the interest in natural medicine, and that has lots of downstream effects in changing the systems, the fundamental infrastructure, changing the entire model of how environments are managed, how agriculture is done, and so forth. I hope that's helpful.
It's very helpful. Thank you for that clarification. You talk a lot throughout this about adding the flowers, such beautiful flowers. But what about flower essences? Do you use flower essences in your formulas, specifically for the stress and tension protocols, but for any of them?
Flower essences are at the completely opposite spectrum of essential oils in terms of their concentration. Okay, and that's why I spend so much time talking about the safety, because essential oils are not safe because they're so highly concentrated. They are dermotoxic. And if you are getting a dermotoxic reaction, that is not a detox reaction, as many marketing people will tell you. It's a toxic reaction. Now, flower essences are at the opposite end of the spectrum of concentration because they are homeopathic, subtle, energetic remedies. They are totally safe, completely safe. You can drink them, kids can drink them, animals can drink them. You can put them on your skin. No warnings or contraindications whatsoever. And they also work more on a subtle energetic level for deeper karmic patterns and deeper levels of consciousness. So they are in the realm of homeopathic subtle remedies. You can combine them very nicely with any of these formulas that I have given, and so you can take them intermittently throughout the day along with drinking the teas and using the essential oils and diffuser or bath, whatever. They complement herbs and aromatherapy perfectly.
Wonderful. Um, for the passion flower tincture, can you say what solvent you would use for making one?
A tincture is generally an alcohol extract. And so when I'm giving these formulas, it's given with the understanding or the assumption that people know what a tincture is, and that they know where to get them. Now, if you go to any health food store or you look online, you're going to see tinctures, okay? And the dosage that I'm giving here is standard for a 1 ounce bottle.
Okay.
So that's a good point to clarify here, because you can also get tinctures in a 4 ounce bottle, and the dropper size will be different. But the standard tincture comes in a 1 ounce bottle, and you can use 1 dropper typically. So I'm looking here, Formula 2 in Section 1, Stress and Tension, 1 dropper of milky oat seed tincture. That means a 1 ounce bottle of tincture with a 1 ounce bottle dropper. So tincture is an alcohol extract. Now, some tinctures are also going to be a mixture of alcohol and glycerin. Some are going to just be glycerin by themselves. Some are going to be a mixture of alcohol and water. There's quite a bit of technical chemistry details that goes into some of this. But in general, the term tincture means alcohol extract. And I'm mentioning this because this is the easiest way to find them. So making tinctures is more complex because you have to know specific details about every species of herb, because the concentration, the amount of herb you use per alcohol, and whether you put water in it and so forth, and how long you steep it, and whether the herbs are dry or moist and fresh, and how you press it. All of these things are very specific per each species. So that's a totally different class. That's medicine making, as opposed to you just go to the Whole Foods and you buy a dropper. You buy a 1 ounce bottle of milky oat seed tincture.
Agreed. Well, consider a different class for a different time, but thank you for clarifying that. In the section on chronic adrenal stimulation, so much of it was about nourishing, and I can appreciate that. This is just such a huge issue. I think it's underlined, almost everything that you addressed here today, but there's many things that contributed to it. Certainly someone's lifestyle, but then underlying infections and EMFs. And so, while these formulas, would you say that these formulas are supportive and nourishing, but then you also have to consider what's contributing to adrenal overstimulation and fatigue?
Yes, of course, and you have to consider that with every one of these conditions. It's not just that specific section. As we go through and look at nervousness and irritability and tension headaches, we have to consider all of that. Now, the beauty of this type of formulary is that these are safe for everybody. This is the type of thing that you can just take this PDF and you can start using these things right now. There's no major warnings or contraindications. The dosages are very conservative. The herbs are very safe, and so forth. And so that's the starting point, because when we're talking about herbal medicine, one of the main challenges is how do you actually prescribe something or suggest something that is, on the one hand, safe for everybody in a public venue such as this, and yet is specific enough that it's actually going to be beneficial? Well, that's what these formulas represent. These are safe and general enough that I can feel very confident talking about them to a large audience, and people can use them without any further information. But at the same time, you may need something more. On the one hand, these formulas may actually be all that you need to treat these symptoms. And it could be that by treating these symptoms, you could actually treat more serious conditions as well. But it could also be that these formulas are not enough, they're not strong enough, you need to take higher doses, you need more frequent doses, you need other herbs. And so that's why I said when we came to the section on depression, especially, okay, that's an example where we don't really know how are herbs going to work for antidepressant purposes. They could work really well. You could take these formulas and that could be all you need. Or you could take these formulas and they do virtually nothing for you because you've had 10 years of serious depression and you've tried every single medication. What is, lemon balm tea going to do for you there in that situation? Nothing. So that's why these formulas are both general and highly effective for a wide range of things, and maybe even some serious things. But at the same time, we also have to look more deeply. And the way that I would do this is I would just suggest try some of these things, and they are somewhat interchangeable. You may find that one formula for stress and tension works better than another formula for stress and tension. But on the other hand, if something is not working effectively, then go see a practitioner and delve into the diagnosis more deeply and delve into the treatment plan more deeply. It doesn't mean that the herbs don't work. It just means that you need something stronger for a longer period of time in higher doses, most likely.
Thank you. Just want to add a comment about one of the roll-ons that you have at Floricopia called Little Angels, and just what a fabulous, beautiful formula that I think that it is. Just seen instant, remarkable effects using it with children particularly, but adults that are dealing also with kids that are out of control at for a moment or something. And so, while it doesn't fit in specifically to the formulas that you're addressing here, is just I needed to add it because I think it has such value. So, you have any comment on that?
Well, that's that's really nice feedback. Thank you. I appreciate it. So definitely supportive. Roll-ons in general are a very mild way of using aromatherapy. But I'm looking at this formula specifically because we had to change it. It used to have Jadamanzi in it, and now because of the shortage, it doesn't. Lavender, cedar, chamomile, and vetiver. And so lavender, cedar, and chamomile and vetiver. And these are all beautifully relaxing oils that are very biocompatible for kids as well. So, yes, good. Thank you for that feedback.
You're welcome. I think we have one more question here about the, we were talking about the Nasya formula, the formula that contained that, and I think you were saying there that this crosses the blood-brain barrier.
Okay, Nasya is a type of treatment, okay, and I gave a couple examples of different preparations. Nasya in classical Ayurveda actually includes a lot of different herbs in different forms. But one of the most common is medicated oils. And that also includes medicated ghee, herbs that are cooked in ghee, or herbs that are cooked in sesame oil generally. So the example that I gave was the Brahmi Ghee. That's either gotu-kola or bacopa or both of them.
Okay.
Cooking ghee, okay? And that can be, a small amount can be massaged into the sinuses, and that will be absorbed into the capillary beds, and those lipid-soluble compounds from the herbs will then cross the blood-brain barrier because they're lipid-soluble.
Okay.
And so Nasya has always been used in Ayurveda to support brain health, and there's a lot of research coming out now and a lot of innovation where they are using these kind of medicated oils in nasal applications for feeding the brain. Another example that I gave, calamus Nasya oil. This is interesting because this is actually getting quite a bit of attention now for treating autism in kids, and it's being found to be highly effective for actually breaking through some of the more significant blockages. And I've heard of cases of kids who were really hyperactive, who calmed down, kids who weren't speaking, who started to speak. It's pretty dramatic, actually. So calamus is a root, it's an aromatic root, and it's prepared into these oil bases. And you can find it again, like I said, through the usual Ayurvedic channels and sources. Calamus Nasya oil, or calamus in a more complex Nasya oil. And again, it's one of the best for energizing and protecting the brain.
Love it. Thank you. And then one last comment from me, just some of the essential oils I use from Floracopia I just find them so potent, and I don't even put a drop on me. It's like I just take the cap and barely touch it to my hair, and then I've got that. I smell it all day long. You know, it's with me, not so much as a perfume, but anything like that I would want to, you know, breathe throughout the day and support me in some way. Any caution or concerns or comments about that, David?
No, it sounds like you are using it safely and beneficially. So, you know, the general rules that I always tell people is just don't put essential oils directly on your skin, even though there are a few exceptions, you know. Jasmine and rose and sandalwood, a few of those types of things can be used as a single note perfume that can go directly on the skin. But otherwise, don't put the essential oils directly on your skin unless you really have a lot more education.
Right.
It's best to just dilute them, and then don't take the essential oils internally. And that's where everybody gets all concerned because they have been told that it's safe.
Yes.
And it's not. And they may have even tried it and felt some benefits, but if you continue doing it, there's a very high level of risk that there will be cumulative damage to the esophagus and stomach, as we talked about last time.
Yes. Yes.
So it's not a safe practice, that's all. So those are the two main rules. Just keep them away from kids, don't get them in your eyes, don't take them internally, don't put them on your skin undiluted. Basic common sense types of things when handling extremely concentrated substances. Sounds to me like you're doing it fine.
Right. David, I so appreciate the comprehensive information that you share, and you teach us how to use this safely and effectively, and it's so important. It's in such contrast to your basic marketing that we're seeing around products like this. So I'm very grateful. I'm just honored, really, to be able to bring you to Hawthorn and share your wealth of experience with us and help, you know, shift us into more responsible use of these products. So again, I thank you.
Well, thank you again for the opportunity, and I really appreciate it. So, and thank you to all the listeners. And, you know, again, it's a very important subject, so I'm always grateful when people are interested in this. And so thank you for inviting me back.
You bet. I have just a few closing comments. I hope you'll all hang with me just for another minute. I want to remind you that the webinar was recorded and it'll be available on our website under archived webinars in just a few days. And there'll be a survey to fill out as soon as the webinar ends. And it just really helps us to have your feedback. So any comments about this presentation and the series that I've spoke about, I so appreciate you taking the time. And I want to let you know that our next webinar is April 2nd. It's with Sarika Cernahouse, and she brings a wealth of expertise to be able to speak to us on fermentation and traditional food preparations. And our next All About Alumni is on Wednesday, April 3rd at noon. And nutrition consultant graduate Lori Fozo is presenting on her post-grad activities. We've had so many previous terrific grad interview presentations. Those are available in our archives too. And I hope that we inspired you to learn more about health and nutrition with all the webinars we've offered you over the years, and certainly this series with David Crow. So I remind you that Hawthorn provides a variety of nourishing programs and courses, so I encourage you to visit our website for more details. And I want to say thank you so much to James Bernardinelli, who engineers all of these webinars and handles all of the back end of it. So thank you, James. And that's really it. Thank you. It concludes today's presentation. Thank you again, David. And really to everyone for sharing this educational experience with us. I know that it takes time. I trust that you gained something from this and any other webinar that you attend with us. So I want to wish you all the best of health, and I look forward to learning more together at Hawthorn University's webinar and All About an Alumni series. And really until then, I'm going to continue to practice combining herbs and essential oils, as well as compassion and kindness, because what we practice goes stronger. So I invite you to join me in that too. And with that, I bid you all adieu. Have a great evening. Thank you for being here. Take care, everybody.